Our next speaker is Clark Dressen. He's the Senior Director of Enterprise Information Technology at Dow Kokam. Please welcome.
Yeah, thank you, guys. My story is a little bit different in that we're a startup. Dow Kokam is a startup. We're located in Midland, Michigan. I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing, what we're building. But as a startup, as a greenfield, our opportunity really was to try to find the best marriage of technology and process and tools, right, as we built this plant and as we built this new concept, new technology. So for us, it was a little bit of a different story. We weren't retrofitting. We were actually applying something new. But I think it fits the story well when you start talking about technology and manufacturing software in the 21st century. So to kind of jump into it, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about lithium-ion batteries, right? Lithium-ion batteries have been around for a while. They're involved in any number of different solutions today, right? Industrial, military, medical devices out in the field. But one of the big ones that gets everybody's attention is transportation. So that is one of our primary targets. Oh, I'm missing. Let me build out my slide there. Transportation is one of the primary targets, and it's interesting. When we started this joint venture, the startup a couple of years ago, I think we all anticipated passenger cars would probably be the biggest drive and the biggest demand. But let me do a quick poll. How many are driving a Volt today? Say one. Okay, that's none. Okay, so but the reality is that the traction just hasn't taken place in the passenger car side yet for a lot of reasons. People are worried about how many miles can I go, and it's a new technology. Where do I charge it up? These type of things, and so we're seeing that that market develop slowly. I think there's two products out today, but many more in development. But really where we've seen on the transportation side is much more of a demand on things like delivery vehicles, postal trucks, a garbage truck. We've got some garbage trucks running around France right now that are all electric. Boats. One of our first contracts was with a tugboat company that uses battery as a energy source while they're idling versus burning fuel. So a number of use cases that probably weren't on the radar 2-3 years ago that companies are starting to try to figure out how this fits. Tramways, monorails, buses. The list is pretty endless in the customers that we're talking to. And as you can see, this is just an example of a typical situation. So the battery in the left-hand side, that's a battery cell. It's what you'd call a large format cell. This is different than the rolled batteries you might have seen that are at the back of the laptop and some of the other lithium-ion devices that you might have. But certainly they're really geared not for the hybrid cars of today. This isn't your Prius battery, right? These are high energy, high power configurations meant to fully electrify a vehicle. So again, like the Chevy Volt, like the Nissan Leaf, but much more capacity, higher density, really extending range and performance of some of these vehicles. I think I shook the thing. So Dow Kokam manufactures the battery cells that go into the energy storage plan. They also manufacture a pack. So a pack would consist of any number of cells, in addition to some battery management systems and some electronics on top of that to do your management and your balancing, as well as the interfaces, the systems that would talk to the vehicle or talk to the boat or talk to the train or whatever. So there's a lot of system integration that happens along with with this space. You're redesigning the entire powertrain and not just the gas tank, if you will. So transportation is really anything that moves. Is probably the best way we like to describe that. And then there's one other market that's really starting to take off, and that market is this idea of stationary power and backup and storage. And you can really quickly jump to things like UPS replacements, right? If I've got a lead acid battery, UPS, it takes up a room this size, and you've got maintenance and a lot of work. A lithium-ion replacement could be a fraction of the size, a lot less environmental concern in terms of keeping the room the right temperature and that type of thing. So there's a lot of excitement about seeing lithium-ion as a replacement for lead acid. But it's also in the grid space. So you start talking about smart grid, and the utility companies are very excited because you can start to say, hey, what if we could have a bank of batteries, a couple of megawatts worth of batteries, sitting by the substation, and we could charge up those batteries in the middle of the night when power usage is low and cost is low. And then when everybody comes home at 5 o'clock to flick on their air conditioner, you're now feeding them off the batteries versus firing up another power plant. So, a lot of interest, and we're actually talking to some utility companies around things like that. And then finally, the green sector, solar power, wind power, those type things. Again, really great if you need that, that electricity exactly when the sun is shining or exactly when the wind is blowing. But what if you need to store it up and use it, later that night to watch, watch TV or cook your dinner? So, a number of markets, and as we talk about the plant, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges we have, is those markets are emerging, and so the requirements, the customers, the specifications are changing on a daily basis. But the thing that we're kind of excited about is, while there's many startups in this space, we think we've got a few things that we can bring to the table that are going to make us very competitive. First off is the joint venture is it's a sum of some pretty powerful parts. So we have TK Advanced Battery and their partner in Korea, which is a company called Kokam, which is where Dow Kokam comes from. They've been doing these large format lithium-ion batteries for over 10 years. Not quite at the scale that we're building in Midland, but they're building the automation equipment for us. They're building the interfaces, and it's proven technology. So we're very comfortable with the technology that we're bringing to market. Groupe Dassault is a French company and a spin-off of the Dassault organization, and a lot of experience in that systems integration. So building the packs, interfacing to vehicles and to automobiles, and there's quite a few test vehicles running around the road in France today with ranges of 200 to 250 kilometers using our technologies and starting to prove that out. And of course, Dow Chemical, having Dow Chemical as a partner and majority shareholder is not a bad thing when they bring science and the materials and manufacturing expertise. We've got the Eric Cosmans, and you've met a couple of other Dow guys that have been doing this a long time. So we can bring that expertise to bear in addition to the science. Because at the end of the day, a battery is a battery, right? It's a cathode, it's an anode, a separator, and some electrolyte. Throw some packaging around that, and you've got a battery. So the magic is in the chemistry. The magic is in the materials and the technology that's used to make these batteries. So what are we doing about it? I've got to show the picture, right? Because we're in the middle of our construction phase. We actually go live. We will start manufacturing batteries for sale in May of this year. So if anybody needs batteries, we can talk after the presentation. 450,000 square feet. Building right there on the edge of the Dow Chemical property in Midland, Michigan. We're going to turn out about 600 megawatt hours a year in batteries. That's several million batteries, depending on the size and capacity and the usage. But we're very excited. It's the best thing I can say is we're on time and we're on budget, right? So that's the best news for me. So we start talking about the industry challenges, and I described for you a little bit about this emerging concept, but really within this space, you've seen a lot in the industry, a lot of press gets played into these startups, and whether it's solar or batteries, whatever else, there's a lot of incentives, government funding, but really many of these current offerings are produced by hand or very small scale. And so what we're talking about here is a very automated, very big plant to turn these things out. The technology, the chemistry, and the best practices are still evolving. So again, the chemistry that goes into the cathode material or to the anode material, the size of the particles, the thickness of the coating, all these type things are going to be factors, and they're still being developed. Again, you can configure a battery for a high power configuration. You can go for more of a high energy configuration. Some applications really want a rapid charge, right? So I can charge it in minutes versus hours type of thing. So all these come into play, and because of the emerging markets, we have to be flexible enough and agile enough to be able to deliver products that meet these needs. And finally, and I think this is where MES starts to play in, because of the fact it's an emerging market and emerging technology, we think that consistency and quality and really reliability in the process is what's going to help differentiate the producers today, the different companies that are competing. And so we think that those things, consistency and quality and reliability in the manufacturing process are going to directly attribute to those same qualities in the end product. And so that's where we're heading with the application of MES. And finally, I threw this in. I like the picture, but it is fuzzy, right? And so the market requirements are changing. And again, I think we're looking for MES to be able to provide us the data so that we are able to react and measure and be able to address these additional needs. So just to hit a high-level process of where we're using MES, as I said, as a startup and as a greenfield plant, we had a lot of interesting opportunities. One of those was to put in very aggressive computing architecture, so quite a bit of redundancy and underlying network capacity down to the plant floor. You can do that when you don't have equipment everywhere. A lot of wireless in the building that's going to be used for different parts of the network, but also really driving the MES platform down to all areas, if you will, of the manufacturing process to give us that visibility and insight into what's happening on the plant floor. So you can see we do have an existing ERP tool today, and we're going to continue to use that ERP tool to do our raw materials management and our order receiving, order management prioritization. The ERP system then will interface with the MES system, pass along the available inventory, available parts, and feed that into the order execution process. At which point the MES system will take those orders and run the order, right? It's going to go make product using the MES system. At the right time, it's talking to our LIMS system to do the appropriate quality checks. I believe we've got 15 different points where the quality is tested through that process to ensure the consistency of the cathode or anode materials is right, the slurry is right to be deposited, the thickness is correct on the cathodes and anodes. So the quality checks go back and forth, and then the product doesn't continue until those quality checks are passed. At the same time, the MES system is telling the PLCs to go run and execute their appropriate programs, and at the end, you're passing the production performance information back to ERP in terms of yield and in terms of how much of the product you made. So probably no surprise here, but I thought it was appropriate to list kind of the key elements involved. On the ERP side, we talked about the order creation, the lots, the MRP, and the planning and the master scheduling. On the MES side, we are kind of using the whole realm, the scope of what MES is intended to offer. That's recipe management, the data historian. Track and trace for us was very important, that ability to, again, get that insight down to the plant level. The OEE, quality management, packaging, and so the details are up there, but really a full implementation of that MES product. So why choose Symantec IT? And again, this gets back to the problems we were trying to solve. Symantec IT, sorry, make sure I pronounced that correctly for our Siemens friends here. Because we are a startup and because we are licensing the technology and purchasing the technology from our partner in Korea, this really was a turnkey implementation. And so for us, the equipment's coming over, the automation, the PLCs were already picked for us and implemented into the equipment. And so the great news is the equipment's being installed, the plant's going to be ready to run, and we're going to flip the switch, and it's magically going to make batteries on day one. But as you can imagine, because it is a turnkey system, we were very concerned about how do we go really start to determine the true efficiency of the program. How do we determine where the bottlenecks are? What's our baseline for production data, and just really getting that visibility down to the shop floor. So that was one of the big drivers of choosing MES in general. But the Symantec IT product, as we did our process evaluation, we looked at 6 or 7 different MES vendors at the beginning of an RFP process. We whittled it down to 3. And again, the good news out of the process was I was very impressed with the top 3 we looked at. All 3, I think, could have met the needs, but we felt the Siemens product best met our overall need. We actually have batch parts of the process. We have some continuous parts. And then, of course, there's a large discrete manufacturing component at the end of the process as we assemble these things all together. The Siemens ability, the libraries of tools, we also thought was a pretty good fit as we looked at opportunity to take these these turnkey solutions we were getting from Korea, and being able to apply these libraries to the systems and turn it up quickly. The integration capability for us was also very key. Of looking at that integration layer, we wanted to pass information back and forth between MES and ERP. So the orders are coming in, priorities coming in, the inventory is going out, the use, the waste, scrap material, and consumption data is going back to your ERP system. So that integration process was very important. Right along with that is the standards, the standards capability, and making sure we adhered to the ISA 95 and the ISA 99 standards to make sure that we're actually passing this stuff. And as we grow and as we change our ERP systems and do other business type systems, that we could continue to maintain a high level of integration and a high level of sophistication between those systems. The flexibility we talked about some. But really, just the commitment from Siemens also to help support us in this startup environment and help us get this thing rolling. We do have global aspirations. We have a plant in France today that was acquired as part of the startup, doing the pack assembly and a pack in Missouri. That's kind of an R&D facility, and we've got room to grow even in Michigan. So we do expect this to go pretty quickly. So what do we expect to get from MES? Really, it is that visibility of key networking performance. So again, the baseline, the awareness, the problem solving, and I'm happy to say we're right in the middle of our turn up, right? So we're doing our 7-hour or 8-hour runs, and then we're going to go on to the 72-hour runs here in the next couple of weeks. We're actually using the MES tools today to help us with that data collection for those 8-hour runs, so that we can validate that the systems are running as expected, and that we can sign off and actually pay the vendor, which they're keen to do. It's the integration of those automation components. It's that product performance information, again, visibility to the shop floor so that we can see what's happening and understand. And really, to me, it's all about setting baselines for the plant. New plant, new equipment, new tools, scaled up larger than we've seen before. So it's getting that visibility and really clearly understanding what it is we're going to be making. Track and trace was obviously very key, especially as we talk automotive customers and the ability to do that quality and definition control back to the automotive world. And things like operating cost and working capital as well, where we want to eliminate rework and certainly keep this as efficient and effective as possible. Oh, key learnings. Okay, so let me tell you about key learnings. There actually were some. I found my key learning page. So I'll tell you, I had 4 key learnings that we talked about. One was common language, and I found this interesting, right? And you'll see a theme of communication through all 4 of these. But when we would go talk with the business guys, the commercial guys, and the supply chain, and you talk about scheduling, and then you go to talk to the MES guys about scheduling. Really, they're talking about 2 different things, but everybody would get confused and say, oh, well, MES is going to do all the scheduling for us, so we don't have to worry about it. No, that's not the case. MES is going to schedule the plant, and it's going to make the product when you hand it the order. But MES is not going to go tell you that customer A, needs this, and let's prioritize this before customer B. So we had a lot of work to do to educate our business practices and processes to get them on the same page. And that business integration then is the second key point of making sure you do have those different groups talking so that the business guys are happy with the results coming in and out of the MES system. Resources, having a consistent team to go implement and to go drive performance. I think, again, for us, we were able to keep our core team together, and we've reached huge benefits by that team being able to work very effectively. And then the last was communication. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the next speaker, and we'll take any questions at the question and answer session. Thanks.